Charmian? Iris? Where are you? Charmian? Iris? Cleopatra the Seventh. Cleopatra. Glory of her father. Last monarch of Egypt. Died honorably at the age of 38. Am I the dead? Waking? Queen Cleopatra the Seventh. Returning to the world after 2,000 years? Why? What for? It's all coming back. Everything is still here, put in my tomb, a long time ago. All the funeraries for my journey to the world of Osiris. Here they are, all the gods and their consorts. Oh, the animal gods, how we love them. All the stories about them. This one is a priestly lesson, I remember. And this is about the religious procession. And there's the sacred Nile, with all its lush and lovely banks, the tall date trees, and the balsam bushes. There's Tet, a cat in body, but a goddess of fertility. Could women do without you? Oh, those delivery pains when you came to their side. And later, you protected them against disease and illness. I remember everything now. A pity the memory works only for the living. They allow none to the dead. Didn't want them to remember anything. They said the body must not be troubled with memories of life. So they blocked all the orifices of the dead with wads of linen soaked in aromatic oils. The goddess Isis.
Goddess Isis returns to Osiris, the god of the dead, guided by the sacred cobra, the god of earth. Proud Queen of Egypt, Cleopatra the Seventh, ended her life in this tomb.
I did die here. Scratched my arm with the poison of the sacred cobra. It was the right thing to do. A fitting death for the last monarch of Egypt. And the race of the pharaohs honored me for that. Memories, memories. What about the living? Why do they remember the dead? Because they were great people. Queens and kings, poets and philosophers. Because they were famous. Or infamous, like me. Posterity sits in judgment, good or bad, just or unjust. But to the dead, it doesn't matter. One bit. Yet, they're not left alone. Wake up. Come back, the living swagger. Come and see what we make of you, your fame, and your name. Fame. I had that all right. Even in my own time. Cleopatra the Seventh, fair Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt and of the dominions of Syria and Armenia. Rome was different. To the Romans, queens at most were mythical Asians, like Medea and Dido, who easily fell to the cunning and deceit of their upstart heroes. But a woman monarch sitting resolutely at the throne of an ancient empire was something else. They didn't know what to make of it. So, rumors and slanders became their weapons against me. That's where my infamous heritage began. A dangerous woman who emasculated the mighty Roman generals. In me, they saw the continent of Asia lurking on their borders, ready to swallow their fledgling culture. I was the Oriental witch casting dark spells on their Caesars. But as if it wasn't enough to slander the living, after my death too, they carried the torch of my infamy far and wide. As the Roman Empire spread northwards, new myths were spawned. Roman art and morals imposed on the colonized people. Roman chronicles became the Bible of truth in the new countries. That's how my notoriety took new roots and flourished, unhindered down the centuries, as Cleopatra, the queen of...
Queen, that gypsy who turned Egypt into a marketplace. Gypsy sorceress. Oversexation, more like. Seductress. Tempted all in sundry. Insatiable appetite. Soldiers and generals, they all fell before her. Caesar and Antony and Octavius. And Pompey. No one stood a chance. So voluptuous was her body. Dark and devilish. An Asian to the hilt. The whore. She got them all 4 of them.
A whore. That's how my infamy increased with time. A gypsy whore, some added later. Well, there were no gypsies in Egypt at that time, perhaps not even in India. And if I was a whore, what did that make their great Roman heroes? Whoremongers, fornicators. Whore or not, I bore children by 2 of them.
They were trapped by her looks. They say no man could resist her. Octavius did, kept his eyes glued to the floor, wouldn't look at her, didn't trust his senses. Sensible man. Saved himself. And became the first Roman king. Would that Caesar and Antony had done the same. But they couldn't resist looking at her. Because they had heard about her beauty. It was the talk of the day.
Was I beautiful? Cleopatra the Seventh, fair Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt, 51 to 30 BC. What was it Plutarch said about me?
Her actual beauty was not in itself so remarkable that none compared with her, or that no one could see her without being struck by it.
So, I was chronicled as actually not being beautiful. But that wasn't acceptable. A woman, they insisted, must be beautiful if the great Roman senators, 4 of them according to some, had wanted to sleep with her.
Watson's trumpet, eater of man.
Women's tribute to me.
The wives suffered, They wept and waited for their men, who never came back. Calpurnia and Fulvia lost out to her. Even Octavia, bitch, she was a blot of good women.
That's the good women of Rome. They couldn't say boo to their men, but slandering other women was quick on their tongues.
Incestuous whore, married two of her brothers, man-eating witch. Her touch was deadly. She devoured them. No man was safe with her. Why did men fall for her? They're like 9 pins. It's a death wish, man. Boom!
Isn't it wonderful how a woman's best support comes from her own sex?
She was scant man, wife to none.
A bimbo, all in all.
Oh, they say she had a Cleopatra grip.
A perfect whore. The sneaky legs around me.
Here I come. Oh, God. Oh, God. Jesus. I die.
Oh, men, men. I hear them again. Moderns are no different. Their fantasies are my harvest from courts to circuses over the last 2,000 years. Such unique adoration of my name, desire and abuse, all mixed up. It has left men unchanged, wanting what they hate, hating what they love. Misogyny sums up Western men, all of them, the mighty and the humble, generals and soldiers, thinkers and writers, poets and tragedians. Cleopatra became easy entertainment for their vacuous minds, a scapegoat to satisfy their fantasies and excite their dull senses. Was I a good monarch? A good administrator? No, never that. Oh, it's all very tedious and boring. How do I feel about it? About what posterity has done to me? Some amazement, a little shock, and much irritation. But the dead don't care. I didn't care then for their prattling tongues. Why should I now? Would I say something in my own defense? Would I? I wonder. After 2,000 years? Perhaps. Why not? It's tempting. Where should I begin? My story? The Queen's story. A woman's story.
Slut, whore, gypsy, bitch, temptress, witch, seductress.
Not anymore. I can't let them go on. I had hoped that one day a woman would speak for me, expose all the lies men made up about me. But it didn't happen. Perhaps it's a folly to wait for messiahs, especially female messiahs. There's no precedent for them. So, the facts of Cleopatra. My birth, youth, marriage, marriages, and death. My life. A precious pearl, clear and pure, snuggled in the oyster of time, and now emerging from the grip of fictional history. It was in the 0 millennium, or more appropriately minus millennium, when I came to sit on the throne of great Egypt as Queen Cleopatra VII, fair Cleopatra. A coincidence that I return on the eve of another millennium to sift through Western neuroses about me. Millennium festivities. The air is filled with excitement to mark a turn in time. A moment arrested, toasted, sung and danced to. The ancient Egyptians had 5 millennia, not counting the pre-dynastic times. Yet, the precise occasion of the millennia didn't excite them. For them, life was one endless pleasure. And so was death too, for that matter. Life and death, time and space, were one continuity. That's what the Romans didn't like about us. They said we had no ethics, that our culture lacked moral fiber, that we were given to dark practices and corrupt indulgences. That's what they meant by Asia, the netherworld of pleasure and excess. Egyptian civilization, a legacy of 5,000 years of highly evolved religion and beliefs in nature. But you can't really blame the Romans for their ignorance. They were a bit thick up here, out of touch with anything other than their own circuses and gladiators. The Greeks, at least, had some sense that there had been greater civilizations before them. They even used them as models for their own systems. But the Romans never understood the greatness of Egypt. For them, the East started with Egypt, and the East meant female cults, promiscuity, and decadence. Even great Alexander's accounts of the East could tell them nothing. Asians remained the dark races for them, synonymous with the devil. Before I defend myself, I must relate my political genealogy. By birth, a Macedonian, I was Hellenistic Greek in upbringing, and only by orientation, an Egyptian. I grew up in Alexandria. So, what was I? Macedonian, Greek, or Egyptian? When I came to the throne, Greece was already a Roman colony. Egypt had been a client kingdom for some time, and it too was soon to fall to their colonizing power. But I stood in their way with ambition to make Egypt independent of the Romans. Egypt was my home. My ancestors had been in Egypt for 300 years. The people loved me. I was their Ptolemy queen who was going to get them out of the rut of civil wars and give Egypt the stability it so well deserved. I was proud of being a Ptolemy. Though the Ptolemies began their rule as outsiders to Egypt, they soon made it their home and adapted themselves to the spirit and soil of the land of the pharaohs. Their rise to political power makes an interesting story. Ptolemy I was the childhood friend of Alexander the Great. He was left in charge of overseeing the satraps in Persia and Egypt. So when the great Alexander died, he moved fast, and from holding his signet, he came to wear one himself as Ptolemy I, and became ruler of 1/3 of the Alexandrian Empire, which was Egypt. His descendants weren't perfect rulers. But then, which ones are? Of all stories, history is the saddest. How did I come to be Egypt's last monarch in a long line of dynastic rulers? Fortunes cease to smile on a nation when it loses its independence. From the 2nd century BC onwards, Rome became a constant third party in Egyptian affairs, as the Ptolemies were under threat from the Parthians and Assyrians in the northeast, and were also fighting amongst each other. To get help from the Romans, the Egyptians had to pay ready cash from the treasury. The Romans started to demand bigger and bigger sums, as they too were marching against other client monarchs or against each other and needed money for the campaigns. Oh, what a mess! Wars, battles, military campaigns make up male history. Yes, I too made wars, but not from choice. The earth can only take so much. The Egyptians, being land people, knew that. They knew the Roman presence was taking its toll of their soil. No wonder there were uprisings among the populace. They resented the Roman generals becoming permanent guests at the court of the Ptolemies. The Romans never understood the greatness of Egypt. They just wrote it off as immoral and inferior to their own. They were bad learners. They weren't like Alexander the Great. They were petty-minded and out of their depth in understanding other traditions. It was easier for them to be racist than to accept differences. Patriarchal and patrilineal, the Romans found Egyptian women too independent. Roman women had no rights. Even high-class women had no say in the state affairs. Egyptian history is full of powerful women. It's difficult to count outstanding Egyptian female rulers. So many were there. Pharaoh Hatshepsut was a queen monarch of the 18th dynasty. That was 1400 BC. Where were the Romans at that time? Pharaoh Hatshepsut was no figurehead. In her time, the empire expanded. She administered well and built the temple of Del al-Bahari, which remained unmatched in its beauty for centuries to come. Pharaoh Hatshepsut was a great influence on me. Another ruler who was a model for me was Nefertiti. So many queens were named after her, just as my own name came from 6 Cleopatras before. The high position accorded to women in Egyptian culture really irked the Romans. I was the last monarch of Egypt, and with me set the sun on the great civilization of the Sacred Mountain. The civilization that lasted for 5,000 years got washed away as history before Christ, and a newfangled term, AD, Anno Domini, was coined to announce its passing away. The Romans walked in and enslaved my country. The thought played with us that we fought amongst ourselves and paid the outsiders to sort out our differences. That was how I met Julius Caesar in 48 BC. To return to the story of my accession to the throne, it was wrought in political upheaval. My father, Ptolemy XII, was partly to blame. He played the flute, and his tunes were as sad as his political dependence on Rome. Before he died, he bequeathed the Egyptian throne to me, with the injunction that I should marry the older of my 2 younger brothers. My brother was only 10 and could not be trusted to rule on his own. Marriages between brothers and sisters were common among the pharaohs. The Romans branded them as incestuous and immoral. They didn't understand the Egyptian method in their madness. For the pharaohs, dynasty and paternity were 2 different things. As long as the crowns and thrones were kept under the same family name, purity of blood was not the issue. For example, if a royal child was born with a defect or showed signs of physical and mental disability, it was replaced by another, even by a commoner. It was politics. This shocked the puritanical Romans, yet their own marriages were often no more than political alliances. Love never entered them, as we know from Antony and Octavia's case. Of course, Egyptian royal marriages were no better. They went hand in hand with palace conspiracies. Thrones were often drenched in blood. No one was spared, related or unrelated. That's what happened at the time of my accession to the throne. My brother husband, many years younger than me, plotted to have me murdered. So much for my incestuous marriage. I acted fast and fled to Syria for help, and returned with an army to defeat my brother, Ptolemy the 13th. But all this is never mentioned. My military prowess is totally ignored. Only my sexual conquests are broadcast. Anyway, to go on with the story of my first battle experience at the age of 18, our armies stood facing each other, neither ready to fight nor budge. So who should enter the scene? Julius Caesar. What was he doing there? Chasing Pompey, who had sought asylum with my brother husband Coppola, an enemy. Some European fictions floated the lie that Pompey too had been my lover. My lover, when he was allied to my enemy number one. A fleeing Roman general was a marked man. What good would he have been to Egypt? But writers have no brains. Holy fantasy. They laugh it all up, however it comes. Oh, give or take a few lovers, and Cleopatra remained cast in the image of the whore of Babylon. Never the general that led the Egyptian armies into battle, and which were not always lost. Another ridiculous story that found coinage with later fiction writers was my first meeting with Caesar. Spicing up Egyptian court intrigues, the story goes that to have a meeting with Caesar, I dressed up in the scantiest possible clothes, got myself rolled up in a carpet, and despite the tight security measures taken by my enemy brother, arrived in Caesar's camp, where the carpet was to be presented to him as a royal gift from my treacherous brother. The story goes on that as the carpet unrolled, Cleopatra jumped out, a young gazelle of 19, tantalizingly sexual in manner, dress, and looks. Caesar fell in love with her instantaneously and was enticed into bed by her. And bingo! She was given the throne of Egypt. Oh yes, and the pregnancy also into the bargain. The harlot turned into a legitimate whore and gave birth to Caesar's illegitimate son. Not bad. Painters went to town on it. Huge canvases were produced in every age. My sinuous body, Caesar's helpless gaze, my voluptuous posture, his temptation. Caesar was no god, the brushstrokes seemed to cry out. Fantasy is a fertile ground for fiction. More elaboration was added by later generations. Some changed the theme from a camp to a cafe. They thought a market scene would better fit my whorish intentions, show me selling my body to gain political ends. Caesar is shown sitting at a table with other frequenters, looking on. And I had just emerged out of the carpet, standing half-clad, waiting to be picked up by the highest bidder. So seductive was the image that it captured the imagination of successive generations of Western artists. In fact, the real story was Caesar saw that an alliance with me would rid him of two enemies in one stroke, Pompey and Ptolemy the 13th. The prime slogan of Roman politics was now at work. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The Egyptian throne was now at Caesar's mercy. He bargained with me. Once again, I was offered the throne of Egypt on condition that I marry my second younger brother this time and have him as joint ruler. What could I say? And what could I say when Caesar wanted to sleep with me? I was obliged to him for survival and for getting me the throne. My political advisors pointed out that Roman threat to Egypt could be turned to our advantage. They had a point. There was nothing new about political alliances through marriage, except that I had already done that once. However, it was impossible to turn down Caesar's offer if I wanted Egypt to be free of the Romans. I was set on putting new life into Egypt and bent on doing it at any cost. I would use every and any means available to secure Egypt's freedom. So, I agreed to a second incestuous marriage and was married off to my second younger brother this time, a second incestuous marriage with a 12-year-old. I was barely 20. Things did go right for a while. The Civil War was over. There were festivities and offerings were made to the gods. At last, Egypt was going to get some stability with Caesar on my side and I pregnant with his child. But what are children to men? A few drops of semen reaching the female ovum. For Caesar, it was like a one-night stand. He was known as a whoremonger by his soldiers. They weren't great love nights for me either. But 9 months later, when I gave birth to a male child, I realized what a trump card I had in my hand. If I played him carefully, I thought, Egypt could become the great empire it once was. I named the child Caesarion Ptolemy the 15th. Oh, the Egyptians were jubilant. They couldn't wait to see him presented to Osiris at the temple of Hathor. Preparations were put into operation. A propitious day was looked up and a national holiday was declared. On the day itself, in a long procession of priests and musicians, and holding Caesarion in my arms, I rode to the temple of Hathor at Dendera. There, amidst great ceremony, we made our offering to Osiris. I was Isis, presenting Horus to Osiris. But Caesarion was also Horus, born of Isis, fathered by Osiris. Incest, the Romans would say. But the Egyptians saw a god when they needed one. They said I was the goddess Isis, because like her, I was putting fragments of Egypt together into one whole. The myth of Isis tells how after the evil Set cut Osiris into 14 pieces and hid him in a box underwater, Isis lamented for him, searched him out, and resurrected him to immortality. For this, they worshipped her as the giver and maker of life. The Egyptian people came to trust me. I was the only Ptolemy who learned to speak their language. When I spoke to them in Egyptian, their faces would light up, as if Isis herself was back among them. In me, they saw the resurrection of Egypt, their Osiris on earth. They wanted me to free their country from foreigners. How could I disappoint them? A nation was at stake. I must uplift it to its rightful place. It would be an uphill task, I knew. But Egypt needs a strong ruler. If I could establish Caesarion as Caesar's heir, Rome itself could be ruled from Egypt. So, while Caesarion was still an infant, I decided to go on a state visit to Rome. Cleopatra moved with her court to Rome. The Romans must be shown how powerful Caesar's harlot was. The future of Egypt looked bright. My arrival in Rome made news. I made sure I arrived on a public holiday. People flocked the streets where the procession was to pass. They had never seen a queen monarch ride in such commanding splendor before. Overtly, they condemned it as Asian excess, but I could see envy in their eyes. I sat in a canopied carriage with in my lap, dressed as a prince. He was very good looking, as only Egyptian children are. Roman women were pushing to have a look at us. I smiled at them and waved and got Caesarion to do the same. They pointed him out to each other. Oh yes, they knew he was Caesar's son. It didn't matter if they got them. I was still young, only 3 years older than when Caesar took me to them. So many stories had been in circulation about me, and now the people of Rome were eager to see me. It took us several hours to arrive at our destination. I put up at a palace. No, it wasn't Roman hospitality. I was asked to pay an exorbitant sum for the privilege. Caesar played it carefully. He didn't want to be seen hosting me in Rome. He came to see us, but not too often and not too openly. He told me how after the news of Caesarion's birth, he had been pushed into adopting his nephew, Octavius, as his successor. I didn't mind, I said. An adopted son is not a real one, I pointed out. He smiled. There were rumors that he was becoming too much of a dictator. He didn't want Rome to revert back to dictatorship. I met Antony while I was there. He came along with Caesar on a few occasions. He told me that there were often quarrels in the Roman Senate. But who would have thought anything would happen to Caesar? Even then, I had my people out and about, bringing me reports of what was happening in the capital. Then, one day, the news came that Caesar had been murdered in broad daylight in the Roman Senate itself. Many hands were drenched in blood. Sounded worse than Egyptian conspiracies. Confusion flooded the city. People gathered outside the Senate and demanded to know. First, Brutus spoke to them, and then Antony also, who laid out Caesar's body for all to see. His words turned the crowd quite ugly towards Caesar's killers. It didn't bode well for me. The city was plunged into chaos. For Caesarion and me, it seemed safer to leave rather than stay there. So, without notifying anyone or saying goodbye to my Roman friends, I left that fateful city early next morning at the crack of dawn, and 2 weeks later, arrived safely in Alexandria. Several years passed before I had anything to do with Rome again. Thereafter, I kept a watchful eye on Roman affairs. It seemed on the brink of a civil war. Caesar's legions were raiding every senator's house looking for the assassins. Antony's words had swung the mood of the people who had at first sided with the Republicans. Brutus and Cassius fled Rome, hoping to return when the mood of revenge subsided. I was concerned in case they washed up on Egyptian shores, asking for my help and bleeding the Egyptian treasury dry. But Antony and Octavius were quick on their heels and routed their forces in the Battle of Philippi. Octavius' emergence as the Roman leader was not good news for Egypt. His succession to Caesar was now a foregone conclusion. And yet, I would not give up hope. I never gave up hope for Egypt. Caesarion Ptolemy the 15th was still young, and political forces in such flux that fates might yet smile on him. Then I heard that Antony and Octavius had divided the empire into eastern and western regions for consolidation. Antony was awarded the eastern part. This meant they had plans for expansion in the east. It was exciting news. Soon, Antony, Caesar's loyal follower, would be arriving in Egypt for funds. I had no doubt I could convince him that the only way to secure stability for Rome was to combine it with Egypt and have Caesarion Ptolemy the 15th as the Roman pharaoh of a great empire extending both to the east and the West. Oh, I could see Alexander's dream coming true. What a fool I was not to have cultivated Antony's friendship in Rome. But at that time I was careful not to be seen in the company of other men, especially men as young as Antony. Might have made Caesar suspicious of my feelings for him. Older men can easily become jealous. I was warned. Antony too was older than me, but he was different. When years later I came to know Antony more than I had known any man, I realized what a noble mind he had. I didn't have to convince him into believing that Caesarion was Caesar's son and his rightful heir. He never wavered from it, even after he fathered 3 of his own children by me. That's what I liked about Antony. He had integrity of mind. Once he was happy with me, he saw himself as married to me. He even divorced Octavia so that he would be a fully legitimate husband to me, in accordance with Roman law. Not that it mattered to me. So much has been said about Antony and Cleopatra that anything I say will sound like another fiction. But being Cleopatra, it's difficult for me not to speak about it. Our relationship wasn't just sex and lust and decadence, as posterity made out. We had a rich time together. It was only with Antony that I came to know the pleasure of the senses. We took delight in each other's bodies. Physically, we were well suited. But our eyes were firmly on our separate agendas and on our mutual gains from each other. Fortunately, there were winters when no campaigns could be conducted and we could burrow ourselves in personal delights. On the Nile and spent more time in Alexandria, patronizing artists and thinkers. Alexandria became the Athens of Egypt, its university, the center of philosophy and sciences. Artists, thinkers, and writers spent long hours together by the Nile, discoursing over matters of the spirit and imagination. As one poet put it, in Alexandria, I came to see my friends as stars. But Rome was determined to prove that whatever surrounded me was corrupt and immoral. So they declared Alexandria as the city of Asian excess and floated terrible lies of voluptuous lechery about me. It seemed tempting Antony, the once blue-eyed boy of Caesar. They accused me of distracting him from his political calling, of taking him away from his virtuous wife. I was a sorceress, they shouted, a seductress and a whore. How could Antony not see what I really was? How could Antony bear to sleep in the same bed as Caesar had done before him? How could Antony bear to father 3 children in the same womb as Caesar had fathered one? They were incredulous men. It never occurs to them that children belong to their mothers, not their fathers. How can any child be illegitimate when it has a mother? But Romans were tedious people with malicious tongues. They couldn't see beyond their noses. Anything different shocked them. The Antony and Cleopatra image changed with the changing worldview of Europe. At times, we were seen as Romeo and Juliet, the tragic couple who died on each other, hounded by the powerful. At others, as aging, lustful lovers, mooching around in oriental beds, while the European-minded Romans were on the march. None of these hyperbole add up. 6 years altogether between us, packed with events. They were occupied with trips to Rome, political arguments, a 3rd marriage, or was it a 5th? And 2 war campaigns, one to Parthia and another to Armenia, and the Battle of Actium. Where was the time to indulge in endless lust? I campaigned with Antony for political alliances, built fleets and raised money for funds for the army. I was no lounging mistress complaining in bed about her warring lover, who had no time for her sexual appetites. Why is it difficult for men to accept the fact that, like a man, a woman may also have other purposes in life than just love? Oh, in my case, of course, it was only sex, a necessary ingredient for turning out cheap romances. So, what were those 6 years really like for us? Too short, but fulfilling. They gave us political partnership, love, and 3 children. And we accepted the fact of our differing ambitions. I was committed to establishing political and economic stability in Egypt. And he, a true Roman of his times, bent on extending the dominions of Rome. So, our famous meeting on the Cydnus, the great romance was spun around it, an updated version of my meeting with Caesar. Temptation and love at first sight. In fact, like my meeting with Caesar, it was hard politics on both sides. The aftermath of Caesar's death had sent Roman senators scurrying all over. Brutus and Cassius came east. Antony was chasing them. A rumor had gone round that Cassius had sought asylum with me. Antony sent a message commanding me to appear in Tarsus to answer charges of allying with Cassius against him and Octavius. So, I journeyed down the Cydnus to meet him. Popular fiction blew the event out of all proportions. Writers and painters depicted me as a seductress dressed to tempt Antony with my jeweled beauty, oriental music, scents, and slaves. What did they expect from the Queen of Egypt? To go barefoot in begging rags? I might have been ordered by Antony as a client monarch of a Roman dependency, but I wasn't going to appear less royal for that. I wanted the news of my royal barge sailing down the Cydnus to go before me. The marketplace where Antony was waiting to charge me with treason against Rome emptied instantaneously. People flocked